Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the SYSTEM1 Group PLC annual general meeting. Throughout this recorded presentation, attendees will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged. They can be submitted at any time using the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. The company may not be in a position to answer every question submitted. However, the company can review all questions submitted today with responses published on the Investor Meet Company platform. I'd now like to hand over the chairman for today's meeting. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to welcome you all, including those joining remotely, to the 2023 Annual General Meeting of SYSTEM1 Group PLC. As there is a quorum present, we can start the meeting. You may wish to follow the proceedings by referring to the notice of this meeting. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself, Rupert Howell, and then from my left, Conrad Boner, Non-Executive Director, John Kieran, Founder, New Business Director, Chris Wilford, our CFO. To my right, James Gregory, CEO, Phil McRae, Non-Executive Director, and at the end, Sophie Tompkins, our Senior Independent Director. The notice of the meeting was sent to you in accordance with the Articles of Association of the company. Unless there are any objections, I will take the notice as read. Thank you. Now, before we dive into the AGM's official agenda, I just wanted to start with a SYSTEM1 product demo that showcases our market-leading product and affirms our position as the world's best creative testing platform. To help with this, I'd like to introduce, and they're remote today on the screen, John Evans, our Chief Commercial Officer, and Robin de Cesare, our Chief Product Officer, who are going to present one case history, which I hope you'll find interesting and informative. John, over to you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for giving us your time. One of the reasons we wanted to share this case study from the US for Boston Beer is probably more than any other customer, they really embrace the power of SYSTEM1 to transform their creative, and most importantly, to make the creative deliver in market results. And that's what we're excited to share. Just to give you a sense of it, our Chief Innovation Officer, Orlando, who wrote Look Out and Lemon, has done masterclasses. The CEO of Boston Beer, in fact, the founder, often quotes SYSTEM1 in meetings, and it's kind of, often referenced. The CMO helps us with webinars, and Robin's research and guidance team are integrated into the development process for advertising. So this is a lovely example where SYSTEM1 platform and consultancy are used together to create some pretty powerful commercial effects. So let me explain a little bit of the background. A couple of years ago, Boston Beer created this idea for their advertising campaign called Your Cousin from Boston. It's based on a bit of a kind of local joke about everyone's got a cousin from Boston that's got a certain kind of attitude who always comes up and does something funny. And they took this idea to promote their number one beer, Sam Adams, which is the biggest beer in their portfolio. And they chose the Super Bowl to do it. Now, I thought I should explain a little bit about the Super Bowl. So I'm sure you all know and love the Super Bowl. It's the world's most watched annual sporting event. It attracts over 100 million people watching it live. It's also been sponsored exclusively for over 40 years by Budweiser, the biggest US beer brand. So to say this is a competitive environment within which to advertise is certainly true. It's also true that the cost of advertising is enormous. So a 30-second commercial slot in 2022 cost around $6.5 million. So from Boston Beer's point of view, as a challenger brand, they want to make sure that that enormous investment, and bear in mind that you could probably double that cost for all the things that go around the Super Bowl promotion, they wanted to know their creative was going to cut through and make a difference on the biggest stage that there is for advertising your brand. So I thought this would be a perfect moment to hand over to Robin, because she's going to talk through what we did in partnership with them to make sure that they had a commercial worthy of the stage on which they were presenting it. Over to you, Robin.
Great. Thanks, John. So the fantastic thing about the Test Your Ad platform is we're able to help our clients all the way through the creative development process. So whether that's testing scripts or storyboards through to animatics and the fully finished film, we're able to help to predict the effectiveness of an ad. And so for the way that we do that is through measuring emotion. By measuring emotional response, we've been able to prove that this has an impact in real world outcomes. And because of our fully automated platform, we're actually able to turn this around incredibly quickly. We state within 24 hours. Our current median time is about 10 and a half. And that helps our clients to make decisions really quickly and with confidence. And that's not just unique to our ad testing tool. We're able to do this in innovation and brand development too. So that speed, together with the value that we offer, allows clients to test multiple iterations of early stage creative development to ensure that they can employ that test and learn mentality and end up with the best possible outcome. So for Boston Beer then, they use that early stage format, which I'll come on to show you in a moment. And it's important to do that early upstream in the process. Once you've gone into production and there's been a lot of time spent producing the film, it's really difficult to, or it can be really difficult to change things. So ensuring you've got that insight up front, check you've got the essence of the idea right, and then understanding ways to improve it will ensure that you're going to get yourself in the right spot. So what did we find? So the data itself revealed actually the ad performed this reach. So they'd done that really well, but actually the challenge for them, it was really lacked engagement with the broader population, which we call the nationally representative group. Now, as John said, with a viewing audience of over 100 million for Super Bowl, that's going to be really, really important to get that right. So Boston Beer worked with our team of consultants at SYSTEM1, not only to understand why it wasn't working with this broader audience, but also to understand how they could improve it to widen that emotional appeal. What our consultants will do is they take the Test Your Ad report where the data sits. They also pair that with our extensive Test Your Ad premium database, which has over 100,000 ads now. And they pair that with their extensive experience in advertising to be able to make actionable recommendations on how to improve. So I'm actually going to play you now that the original sort of early stage creative. But before I do, this scored very well with the core audience. It achieved a 4.1 star, but actually only achieved a 1.1 with that broad NatRep sample. As the ad plays, what you will see is the emotional response build second by second. You'll see the green positive emotions at the bottom. Neutrality will be in the middle, in sort of a grey-white, and at the top, the sort of red oranges are the negative emotion. And then on top, we're able to capture the consumer verbatim to really understand why and what's going on. So let's take a look at their early stage ad.
We see a tech office late at night. A big sign reads, Boston Dynamics. Your cousin from Boston and his friend Polly are working as security guards and drinking beer on the job. They hold a Sam Adams Wicked party pack. They're approached by a robot.
Hey, buddy. Want a Sam Adams?
Your cousin from Boston.
The boys pass out beer to all the robots. The party is on.
Wicked's all around.
The robots are dancing, playing beer pong, and enjoying Sam Adams.
Cheers, kid.
Your cousin has a heart-to-heart with a robot.
I just miss her. I should text her, right?
The robot shakes his head and throws the phone. An engineer arrives and flips on the lights and sees the party. Why do we have to start this company in Boston? Samuel Adams Wicked IPA Party Pack. It's good to be wicked.
So as you can see from that ad, we saw some positive building. So there was some positive emotion, but actually at the top, you would have seen that negative emotion being driven as well. And we needed to understand what that was about and to resolve it. So what our consultants will do, they'll use a lens framework that we've specially developed to really understand what makes great advertising through all the work that Orlando's done in thought leadership to develop this framework. And from there, we're able to provide actionable recommendations, which we call our 5 steps to a 5-star ad. So what things can they do to move the dial towards a 5-star advertising? So what we found in this particular one, without going into the chapter and verse of the full report, we focused on the story. So one of the things that respondents were pulling out was, for the wider group, make sure that party starts after work, not during. We talked about the branding, the fluency, as we call it, and understanding where the right place is to build the brand and the product shots and so forth. And really importantly, the characters themselves. And what we were able to do was actually look at our extensive database of advertising and look at robots used in advertising. So we were able to cite some brilliant examples that Toyota used of where they got it right, and a couple of less effective examples of where they've got it wrong. And what's brilliant about that is we're able to share that data with our clients for inspiration, so that can help them with their creative development as they go on to the next stage. So with that, I'll hand back to John to do the big reveal of how they got on.
Thanks, Robin. What I love about this is you get to see the before and you get to see the after. And some of the changes are big, some of the changes are small, but they add up to a lot. So on the next slide, if we could just play the final video and have a look at the difference in emotion, look at top right at the emotions Robin described, and see how much more positive they are than what you saw before. Thank you.
Here we go.
Long day, huh? Thank you. Hey, buddy. You want to Sam Adams? All right. Hello. Your cousin from Boston. Wickeds all around. Cheers. Get it, girl. He wasn't lying. We're gonna live forever.
Call security.
That is security.
This is the best night of my life.
So hopefully you enjoyed that. But what you can see quite clearly is we managed to take the scenes that really work in the animatic and make sure that they had time. We told the story in a very simple way. The music was there. The acting was, all played a part. And as Robin said, we've got proven 5 steps that create a 5-star ad. Now, of course, how did it do? We're not here to just for the fun of kind of making advertising. We're here to help businesses make advertising that makes a commercial impact. Now, the advantage of having a premium database is we test every ad that airs in the Super Bowl. So we can give a live ranking. So within an hour of a Super Bowl ads going on air, we've got the results from the database. So big reveal and drum roll, please. Oh, I'll come back. Actually, I'll go to the answer and then I'll come back to the previous slide. So as you can see here, of the 85 Super Bowl ads from some of the biggest advertisers in the world with the biggest budgets in the world, Boston Beer came in at number 1 with a almost 5-star performance. So they just missed out on 5-star, but got 4.9. And that is hugely important to them as a business, because as a challenger brand against much, much bigger brands, they were able to use our creative testing in order to punch above their weight and beat much, much bigger competitors. Now, just to flick back to the previous slide, I've shared here some of the results. So not only was it number 1, but looking at spike rating, which is our prediction of short-term sales, so how likely people are to take action in the short term, go out and buy, recommend to a friend, etc. It scored an exceptional level at 1.65. As you can see at the top, star rating for the general audience, as Robin said, for the beer drinking audience, it was already good, but for the general audience, to see a shift from 1 star to almost 5-star is incredible. And to put some color to it, typically Sam Adams will work with us over about a 7 or 8 month period, and they might test 7 or 8 times in that time to continually iterate and improve in order to get right up to the top of the score. And the most important thing is, overall, their sales increased by 4.7%, and a lot of that contribution will be down to this campaign. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how the platform, the data we have, combined with the guidance and expertise that we have in-house, enables some of our customers, particularly in the US, where it's a very competitive market, win the Super Bowl of advertising.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Robin. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you felt it was constructive for us to add a little bit of colour to these proceedings to show you what we actually do. And up there, Robin, is the quotes from the client showing how delighted they were with what we do. This is an incredible business that does extraordinary things for the world's major advertisers, and we're very proud of all the results we achieve. Now we need to get to the formal bit. And apologies for the necessary legalese, but I will plough through it as quickly as I can. So proceeding with today's agenda, you'll have noticed that we have enabled the option for electronic submission of questions, Any inquiries received about the resolutions are or will be addressed promptly in writing. Post-voting, we have designated time to discuss any further questions you may have. We really do welcome questions and shareholder participation. Speaking of voting, we requested prior voting submissions. If you are present in person and have not voted, there will be an opportunity to do so after the reading of each resolution. For those joining us remotely, please be aware that you will not be able to vote. To ensure we capture all shareholders' perspectives, we will conduct a poll on each resolution today. I'm appointing Link Group, the company's registrars, to act as scrutineers. When you registered your attendance here today, you will have been given a poll card, which the shareholders and proxies present at the meeting should complete and sign as indicated. In the case of corporate shareholders, the poll card should be completed by their authorised representatives present at the meeting or by their proxy. If a voter is both a shareholder and a proxy for another shareholder, or if you're attending as a proxy or representative of more than one shareholding, please use separate poll cards. On your poll cards, there are 3 options for each resolution. You can vote for the proposed resolution, against the proposed resolution, or you may withhold your vote. A vote withheld is not a vote in law and will not be counted in the calculation of the proportion of the votes for or against a resolution. Please complete your poll card by ticking the appropriate box next to the relevant resolution, depending on how you wish to cast your vote. Once all votes have been taken on the resolution, please would you sign the poll card and hand it to the representative of Link Group, who will be coming around to collect the poll cards. Should you require any further assistance, our registrars will be happy to help you. The final results of the voting will be announced via the London Regulatory News Service later today and will also be published on the company's website. After we conclude the voting, as previously mentioned, we will open the floor to questions. Once the formalities of today's meetings are complete, we invite you to join us for some refreshments and the opportunity to have informal discussions with our board members. We appreciate your active participation and look forward to engaging with you. Dear attendees, let's proceed to voting now. So Resolution 1 is the resolution to receive the report of the directors and the accounts of the company for the financial year 2022-23. I formally propose Resolution 1 as an ordinary resolution. This resolution is now put the meeting to vote. Please would you tick the appropriate box on the poll card. I will now close the vote. The poll is now closed. Resolution 2 is the resolution to approve the directors' remuneration report as sent to members with the notice of this meeting. I formally propose Resolution 2 as an ordinary resolution. This resolution is now put to the meeting to vote. Please would you tick the appropriate box on the poll card. I will now close the vote. The poll is now closed. Resolutions 3 to 8 inclusive. In accordance with the Articles of Association, all directors are retiring and are offering themselves for re-election. Mr. James Gregory has not been offered for election since his appointment on the 6th of December 2022 and accordingly now stands for election as a director. Resolution 3 is the resolution to re-elect John Kieran as a director of the company. I formally propose Resolution 3 as an ordinary resolution. This resolution is now put to the meeting to vote. Would you tick the appropriate box on the poll card? I will now close the vote. The poll is now closed. Resolution 4 is the resolution to re-elect Sophie Tompkins, who is non-executive director. I formally propose Resolution 4 as an ordinary resolution. This resolution is now put to the meeting to vote. Please would you tick the appropriate box on the poll card? I will now close the vote. The poll is now closed. Resolution 5 is the resolution to re-elect Chris Wilford as a director of the company. I formally propose Resolution 5 as an ordinary resolution. This resolution is now put to the meeting to vote. Please would you tick the appropriate box on the poll card? I will now close the vote. The poll is now closed. Resolution 6 is the resolution to re-elect Rupert Howell, who is a non-executive director. I formally propose Resolution 6 as an ordinary resolution. This resolution is now put to the meeting to vote. Please would you tick the appropriate box on the poll card? I will now close the vote. The poll is now closed. Resolution 7 is the resolution to re-elect Philip McRae, who is a non-executive director. I formally propose Resolution 7 as an ordinary resolution. This resolution is now put to the meeting to vote. Please would you tick the appropriate box on the poll card? I will now close the vote. The poll is now closed. Resolution 8 is the resolution to re-elect Conrad Boner as a non-executive director. I formally propose Resolution 8 as an ordinary resolution. This resolution is now put to the meeting to vote. Please would you tick the appropriate box on the poll card? I will now close the vote. The poll is now closed. Resolution 9 is the resolution to elect as director of the company, Mr. James Gregory, who was appointed a Chief Executive Officer since the last annual general meeting. I formally propose Resolution 8 as an ordinary resolution. This resolution is now put to the meeting to vote. Please would you tick the appropriate box on the poll card. I will now close the vote. The poll is now closed. Resolution 10 is the resolution to reappoint RSM UK Audit LLP as auditors of the company and to authorise the directors to determine the auditor's remuneration. The Companies Act 2006 requires you to reappoint our auditors and to approve the manner of determining their remuneration. I formally propose Resolution 10 as an ordinary resolution. This resolution is now put to the meeting to vote. Please would you tick the appropriate box on the poll card. I will now close the vote. The poll is now closed. Resolution 11 is the resolution to authorise the directors to allot relevant securities subject to the provisions as set out in the notice. I formally propose Resolution 11 as an ordinary resolution. This resolution is now put to the meeting to vote. Please would you tick the appropriate box on the poll card. I will now close the vote. The poll is now closed. We now come to the special business of the meeting. Resolution 12 is the special resolution to allow the company to disapply shareholders' preemptive rights on the issue of new shares subject to the provisions as set out in the notice. I formally propose Resolution 12 as a special resolution. This resolution is now put to the meeting to vote. Please would you tick the appropriate box on the poll card. I will now close the vote. The poll is now closed. Resolution 13 is the special resolution to allow the company to disapply shareholders' preemptive rights on the issue of new shares in connection with an acquisition or specified capital investment subject to the provisions as set out in the notice. I formally propose Resolution 13 as a special resolution. This resolution is now put to the meeting to vote. Please would you tick the appropriate box on the poll card. I will now close the vote. The poll is now closed. Resolution 14 is the special resolution to allow the company to purchase its own shares subject to the provisions as set out in the notice. I formally propose Resolution 14 as a special resolution. This resolution is now put to the meeting to vote. Please would you tick the appropriate box on the poll card. I will now close the vote. The poll is now closed. Resolution 14 was the final resolution of the AGM. Please would you now sign the poll card and hand it to the representative of Link Group who will be coming round to collect the poll cards. The results of the meeting will be announced via the London Regulatory News Service later today and will also be shortly published on the company's website. Questions? We will now open the floor to questions from those who have joined us, who've been good enough to join us. For those in the room, when posing a question, please introduce yourself, even though we know you, and mention if you are a member or a representative. If joining remotely, please route your questions via the Investor Meet Company platform. Chris Wilford, our CFO, is monitoring those questions and will make sure we answer them all. We do appreciate brevity to give everyone a voice. Remember, only questions from members, representatives, or proxies will be permitted. So shall we take any questions? Maynard, do you have a question for us?
Sorry, last year, Graham, the chairman, he read out the votes and there were significant protest votes at last year's AGM. Why are you not reading out the votes this year?
Why are we not reading out the votes this year? The advice is that we can present the votes at the end of the meeting, after the meeting's all done.
Okay, there may be.
I'm very happy to tell you at some point whatever the votes are. We're not hiding anything here.
All right, there may be significant protest votes where that could lead to questions from remote attendees.
All I can advise you, I'm not sure what my legal position here is, but as we're amongst friends, what I can advise you is there's been no protest vote.
Okay, so nothing over 20%.
We're talking about votes in the 90% in favour, plus.
All right, okay. Thank you.
Am I allowed to say that, Renato? Thank you. Just to put Maynard's mind at rest. But anyway, any questions? Sorry, could you speak up a bit? I'm a bit deaf, I'm afraid.
All right, okay. So in the annual report, you've introduced a bonus scheme for the executives, short-term bonus scheme. So why have you introduced that when the LTIP is still running?
Shall I answer that? Yes, I'll answer that. The reason is that the LTIP scheme is exactly what it says. It's for long-term incentives. But we felt, particularly as we had a new refocused strategy, with very strong demands on the sales performance, that actually incentivizing the executive and the team in the absence of any pay rises, because we've frozen pay, unlike most companies in fact, like almost every company I know in our sector, to keep our costs under control, that the alternative way of motivating people rather than giving them pay rises in advance was to give them bonuses when they achieve results. This has proved to be extraordinarily effective.
Okay, the LTIP was introduced perhaps on the understanding that there wasn't the executives were foregoing bonuses. That was the understanding of shareholders. They voted it through 2 years ago.
Well, my strong belief is that you need both in any dynamic organization. So you need an LTIP, which is for long-term retention of key executives and reward for long-term performance, but you also need to drive short-term performance, something that I think you'd agree this company has not always delivered, and we are determined to ensure that we deliver month on month, quarter on quarter, which is exactly what we're doing, and the bonus scheme is a key part of that.
Okay. I just think the spirit of the LTIP introduction has been broken.
Noted.
So in terms of the profit measure then, where you're measuring for these short-term bonuses, why is it just profit? Why is it not aligned with a KPI you've set, let's say the rule of 40 in your strategic review?
Not just profit, is it?
Yeah, so it's a profit, Chris. Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, what we've tried, and Phil, I'm sure wants to add to this, but what we've tried to do in coming up with the measure is to ensure that the executive scheme is aligned to the profit that shareholders see. So it's effectively, so that's why it's profit and not revenue gain or gross profit, for example. Because I'm sure you would be less happy if we achieved some non-financial strategic goals, paid cash out of the company, and yet the company wasn't reporting the earnings that you'd expect to see.
There's a conflict, because you're telling shareholders one thing with the rule of 40, that's your financial metric for the strategic review, and then your own incentive is something different. So there's no alignment there, no clear alignment.
The implicit, sorry if I can, Maynard, the implicit alignment, if not necessarily explicitly, is for any form of STIP to be paid out, the rule of 40 will be the driver behind that, because you need to hit sort of the revenue and the profit growth underneath it for anything to be paid.
That needs to be made clear in the annual report, because it's not clear. It's just said.
That's noted. We should make sure that's clearer.
Because you could achieve your bonus goals and not achieve the rule of 40 in some way, and there's perhaps a conflict in terms of you thinking, well, are we going to meet the rule of 40 or your own bonus goals, and they're not aligned. I think that's the impression you get reading the annual report.
When we launched the rule of 40, we said that it was a strategic measure, and we said that some years we would beat it, some years we might fall just short of it, just because of the way that the maths works. So we're not walking away from rule of 40, but rule of 40 wasn't designed as an annual compensation driving measure. It was more a strategic light that we drive towards.
Right. Okay. So you're quite happy for this year or whatever year not meeting that rule of 40. Well, you're not happy, but we can
never happy not to beat it.
Yeah,
but it's
okay.
not driving inappropriate short-term behaviours. You know, we're a business in growth, Maynard. Long may it continue, and we need to drive month on month, quarter on quarter growth. We believe we will achieve the rule of 40 each year, but we've said very explicitly as part of the strategic review, it was a long-term goal, not a quarterly or annual goal. But we hope to beat both. Can I ask if there's any questions online?
There are no questions.
So we'll carry on with Maynard then. I'm very happy for Maynard to carry on.
So is the LTIP done then? Now you've introduced this new scheme. You've introduced a new scheme because the LTIP is...
Phil's chairman of the
Yeah, so the remuneration policy remains that remuneration should be a combination of both fixed elements, variable short-term elements, and variable long-term elements. And the last variable long-term element that was put in place, the LTIP scheme that you're referring to, continues in its current form and is intended to continue in its current form. But following the strategic review, and as the policy outlines, we review the mixture of fixed and variable annually, and have determined following the strategic review that, as the chairman has outlined, there will be a short-term focus on month-on-month growth, quarter-on-quarter growth needed in order to hit the long-term objectives. So that the long-term LTIP remains in place, and if the business is successful, could be the most significant element of remuneration. But what we've layered in for FY24, important to say that there are no short-term bonuses paid in respect of the accounts that have been tabled at the meeting today. For 24, we've layered in some short-term objectives. I don't consider them to be soft objectives. They are for over-performance of the board's expectation for the business. And we will review them on completion of FY24 against the targets, and we'll review again going forward whether the business should revert to solely an LTIP or a combination of short-term and long-term variable. So it's not done, it remains a part of the remuneration mix.
It does give the impression that maybe some employees or senior employees have given up on the LTIP and fancy the short-term bonus. Because the LTIP was a stretching, it was a stretching target, but it was clear, really clear to shareholders what the targets were.
And I hope it's very clear to shareholders what any of the remuneration targets are.
Okay, so what are the targets then for the short-term bonus? Because they're not specified in the annual report.
What I don't think, I take on your observation, but I don't think it's right to think that anybody, certainly in the executive team or indeed the management team, has given up on the long-term incentive plan or the long-term strategy.
Okay, we've got 2 years, so we'll find out in 2 years whether
we will.
Whether the bonuses are paid out, the LTIP isn't.
The only way we'll get there in 2 years is to hit the quarterly targets and the half-yearly targets and the annual
which
targets.
we are currently doing.
I mean, the way you're looking at the statement this morning, you maybe not need the short-term bonuses because you'll easily hit the LTIP.
Well, the short-term bonuses are part of why we're able to put out a statement like this morning.
Okay.
Because they've been very targeted and brilliantly targeted, I may say, by James with the approval of Remco and the board to make sure that key people are absolutely 100% focused on hitting targets rather than allowing anything even to drift for a minute. That's the plan.
And they're there to motivate as well as remunerate.
Yeah.
So you know,
and you've got to remember, we're dealing with
chicken and egg about performance and incentives.
We're also dealing here with some very high caliber people who are in demand elsewhere, and we took a business decision not to give any pay rises when the average pay rises in our sector are double digit. And we didn't do that. What we did instead is said, we will put in place some short-term bonus schemes if you deliver the numbers, and they have. And that we're delighted about, and I think shareholders should be delighted about.
So will these bonuses, because in the annual report it specifies the executives, does it spread through to the senior management as well? Senior management.
Bonuses do, in the whole company.
Yeah. For
the guidance that the remuneration committee gives to the exec and that James and I talk about is that the senior management team of the business should have the same strategic targets and the same incentive structure to deliver those targets as the executive directors.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And will these be classified as an adjusting item next year?
So I didn't hear the question.
Will they be? The question is, will they be classified as an adjusting item next year? So just for clarity of everyone, currently, SYSTEM1 treats bonus and commission payments as what we call a non-trading cost, and that goes back to the 2019-20 and 2021. Where the bonus targets were set very, very high, and partly because of the pandemic, the business performance was very low. And if the bonuses were paid, so bonuses are either very high or nothing, and so it made potentially that could hide the underlying performance. And so we decided we will take those out of what we call our sort of ongoing profit figure. Now, with the new bonus structure, both for the sales team and with the short-term incentive for the executive team, we are actively considering taking variable compensation out of non-trading and putting it into the operational cost. I think you're aware of that, but that decision hasn't been taken yet. And we'd obviously restate any prior periods to give that clarity. So the reason it wasn't on trading is it was like 3 years off when you were on, and it was just very confusing in understanding what was going on in the rest of the business.
Okay. I just worry that you introduced a new bonus scheme, company's doing well, which is positive, but there's like another adjusting item and we're back to break even next year. Because if it's the maximum of 50% of salary, that's for the board is £300,000, for the senior management more, and it's another adjusting cost, and you're back to break even next year.
And I recognise that. I understand why you're asking that question, but I'd highlight the release we put out this morning, where we've indicated that the board's confident that we're going to beat the consensus profit figure. So we're signalling very clearly that we're going to be profitable. We've set a gross margin % base that gives a great start towards that. We've obviously not disclosed the costs. It's not even the end of the half year yet.
Yeah.
But read that as it's intended.
Cool. Any more, Maynard?
I've got quite a few. I just think it's a bit sad where shareholders have approved that LTIP 2 years ago on the understanding, maybe it's not a technical reason, but on the understanding that you're all foregoing your annual bonuses and driving for this LTIP. And let's say you're changing the rules halfway through.
Well, I think what we're doing.
But you've explained.
I hear what
that's
you're saying, Maynard, but we also conducted an exhaustive strategic review, reset the business on a path that I would argue that 99.9% of our shareholders are very, very happy with, because it's starting to move in the right direction. And it's all part and parcel of it. But your comments are understood and noted.
Yeah, I mean, the company the LTIP's been, without prolonging this particular part, but it's been going for 6 years and it's not paid out. You think, well, okay, do you need other people to drive the business forward?
Well, we're going to get there, but it's a very difficult talent market. We've got some great talent. We need to motivate and remunerate them.
The talent so far hasn't paid out. The talent so far hasn't matched your LTIP targets. That's what I'm saying.
It's a re-energized talent following the strategic review and getting the right people doing the right jobs.
If I could just point out that 4 of the 7 participants in the LTIP have either joined the company or joined the LTIP since 2021. And so for that group in particular, with the LTIP having been designed in 2017, I know it's been adjusted slightly. We need to make sure that those individuals are properly motivated as well as rewarded for the long-term performance.
Okay.
Can we move on to another topic?
Sorry. Okay, so let's talk about Orlando Wood and his marketing course. So why is he spending time developing a marketing course and not selling the platform services?
Well, he's doing both. I mean, I'll let James answer in detail, but I'll give you the headline. I'm delighted with what Orlando's up to. I'll tell you why. The way our marketing and our new business drive works is we have to build fame for SYSTEM1, but we also need to spread the gospel amongst senior marketeers as widely as we can and in some depth. Because as you've seen, one of the reasons I wanted to show a case study is this is not a product that you buy off Google, right? This is a product that has to be developed and sold into big companies who it's a key part of them spending millions and millions and millions of dollars, okay? And to do that requires quite a lot of education. One of the things that John has found himself doing in New York, for example, quite a lot, is running masterclasses at the request of client companies to teach them about how to think differently about advertising, how you measure it, how you make it more performant, to use that phrase. And What Orlando's doing here, in partnership with us and with Walk, which is an incredibly high-profile organisation, is building a course that is going to educate a whole generation of marketers around the SYSTEM1 protocols. So suddenly we will have, instead of just one person going out proselytizing SYSTEM1, hopefully thousands of people doing it, because I mean, there are thousands of people who have pre-registered interest in the course that we're building with Orlando. So it's a joint thing. It will be co-branded SYSTEM1. It'll raise the fame, and he's still going to be working 4 days a week, not 5, 4 days a week with us, meeting clients and running new business pitches. This is something he does. By the way, this is not like a classroom course. This is not like, what happens nowadays is he produces video modules that are served online. So it's an online e-education course. This is not Orlando University. So he can do it in a day a week, and he's going down to 4 days a week in terms of his pay. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, he's Chief Innovation Officer. I mean, the key thing he focuses on is building out our methodology and our IP, about promoting that, whether that's sort of be on stage at Grand Scheme or whether it's directly with customers to win or to retain them. If you look at where he was yesterday, he was on stage promoting our new publication called Listen Up, which is all about radio advertising and audio advertising. Again, we talked, one of our strategic pillars was doing more than just TV testing. So that helps for that. But again, you'll see he is still there promoting SYSTEM1, building out the methodology and promoting it. The good thing about the course is the scalability. I know a question we talked about, Maynard, before, is our scalability, especially where people are involved in it. And the great thing about the course is because it is modular and it can be pre-recorded, essentially that can be scaled to multiple people versus, as you said, Rupert, him having in a room with one customer at a time, which is much less scalable.
So that's why we're very pleased about it. It's a very good evolution of his role.
So the people attending the course, they're employees of customers and or potential customers. Is that right? Yeah. Okay.
Either new customers or it helps with new business wins. It helps with retention.
Maynard, can I stop you? I'm coming back to you.
Yeah.
We've got an online question.
Right.
So
okay.
Just to give you a breather.
Yes, that's fine.
Chris.
Yeah. And this is probably one for Phil. So this is from Martin. As a very long-term shareholder, I hate dilution in principle. I like execs to buy shares themselves and hold them. Can you give me any reaction to this in your long-term thinking?
So I think two responses to that. Firstly, on the dilution point, I think we're clear in the remuneration policy that we're very cognizant that nobody likes dilution, and that the shareholder accretion that we expect to be delivered in order to fulfill the long-term incentive plan goes beyond the point at which the plan itself would be dilutive. So yes, I echo the sentiment in that question, and I think that will continue to be reflected in part of the remuneration policy going forward. The second part of the question about executives holding shares, I think I'm right in saying every member of the board at the moment has shareholdings.
Yep.
And I'm aware that since joining, I certainly have, and Conrad, the most recent joiner of the board, have both purchased shares. We don't have, I think we don't have a specific requirement for executives to hold shares at this point in time, but continue to encourage it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not aware of a formal policy, but we could certainly look at a policy, because it's becoming more and more common in the market to have a formal exec holding policy where you hold a sort of, proportion or a multiple of salary in shares going forward.
Let's look at that.
So we can certainly look at it.
Yeah. Back to you, Maynard.
So, I mean, surely Orlando should be saying, or in his course saying, this is the best. It seems a bit of a convoluted
it's
way.
exactly what he's saying.
In terms of the predictions, speed and value. That's what they should be selling.
That's exactly what he's saying.
I don't want to sort of reveal all the content, but it will come out very soon. But within there, you will see SYSTEM1, its methodology. Yeah. For example, having people accessing the database so they can understand the breadth of what Robin talked about earlier, those 100,000 ads which will be there, etc. So it is inherently linked in everything SYSTEM1 stands for and does.
So is there mentions of 17th century Italian art then in these films?
If Orlando brings to light the the methodology through his unique way, he will choose to do so, and we wouldn't limit him on that.
All right, that's very System 2 way of
except
selling a
when you,
System
the
1
other
product.
thing, the other thing, Maynard, is when you are doing online modules, and I've never personally had a business that does e-learning, but I have friends who founded e-learning businesses, including the current Chancellor of the Exchequer, who did one of the first e-learning businesses. Is the absolute critical element is that you keep it interesting, not dry. And one of the things that Orlando is brilliant at is making what could be quite a dry topic fruity. And that is why we think this is going to be incredibly successful.
All right, from what I've seen, it's the opposite way around.
Yeah, but then maybe you're
but maybe I've not
somebody who
seen.
likes
Maybe
detail.
I've not seen the. Maybe I've only seen the Lemon film.
Well, what he does is he brings things to life in a very engaging and compelling way for the marketing community, which is the target audience, Maynard. With all due respect, our target audience is not in professional investors, it's marketeers.
Maybe you'd like to attend one.
Sorry?
Maybe you'd like to attend one of Orlando's courses.
Yes, yeah. I mean, yeah, I could.
I think we should
watch,
do that.
yeah.
I think we should do that as a gift to you.
I get some sort of return, instead of a dividend.
We have one more coming online.
All right, yeah.
No,
if you prioritize the online ones, and I can.
So this is Charles. What's the long-term future of the original non-platform business?
Yeah, shall I take that? I think something we've tried to restate as we did the strategic review is there's always likely to be an element of bespoke work that's required. And we've also recognized that we have some great customers who are sort of long-term customers of System1 as well. When we've talked about the makeup of the business, we've talked about a likelihood of 75 to 80% of our data are pure Predicture offering. About 20 to 15% of our data-led consultancy are Improve Your offering, and about 5% on bespoke. So what we've considered as that historic enterprise work is that bespokeness. So as we grow the business, obviously the level where we're at today will decline, but we always imagine to retain some going forwards. And again, if you look at some of the way some of our largest customers buy, sometimes they just have a question to ask, which we can't offer from our standard online offer, and that will come into that bespoke part of it.
Was that the question there?
And there's another question that I think I'll answer.
Go on,
that's okay. From today's trading statement, it's possible to calculate both H1 and Q2 platform and non-platform revenue, but requires transparency growth rates from previous periods. Wouldn't it be simpler just to state the numbers for the current periods? Well, yes, it would, but the Q2 and H1 haven't finished yet. So on the 24th of October, we will publish the numbers in tabular form, so you can see exactly that, and they will be hopefully approximately close to what we've trailed today. Yeah, so that hopefully that answers that question. But we felt that it would be wrong not to indicate the direction of travel.
Yeah. Next one, Maynard.
Okay, so Test Your Idea. That's got off to a slow. So why isn't Orlando writing a book to build fame for Test Your Idea, and instead of doing a course?
We have to keep our powder dry on some things. I think that watch this space. There will be more focus on Test Your Idea going forwards, and at the appropriate times, we'll be able to share what that looks like. Yeah. As I say, like Orlando's our Chief Innovation Officer. He's very involved. As I said, if you want us afterwards, I'll share the Listen Up publication which we set out yesterday. But again, he was a core part of doing that. The other thing we've also been focused on is you have to double down on what's working while you're building for the future. So what we're doing within that is we know that the Test Your Ad is really flying and really rocketing. So we need to ensure that we can drive as much revenue from that to allow us to reinvest in the business in future things like Test Your Idea, Test Your Brand, etc. So it's not being ignored, and it's on our list for sure.
You'd have thought, because it was your biggest, I've mentioned this before, but it was your biggest sales earner, and it's dried up over the last few years. And most of the income, I think, is bespoke consultancy. So the actual data from this part of the business is quite small. It does feel like it has fallen by the wayside. And now you've got Listen Up, and Orlando's doing another course. It all feels like this business is going for the ad testing side of things because it works, but it is the smaller market. Yeah, and you've lost a really big chunk of your past revenue.
I think I recognise the challenge. I think, as you said, we've spoken about it before. I think when I talked in the last Capital Markets Day, it must have been, we did talk about the fact that the revenue off the back of Test Test Your idea isn't growing at the level that we want it to, and we do want to continue to invest and focus on it. We'd like to see that grow this year, and we'd like to ensure that we have the supporting methodology, the fame, the new business wins, and then the retained customers through it in the same ways we've been able to do with Test Your Ad.
I would have put that as your number one priority, not Orlando doing a course, because it's such a bigger market than ad testing. Well, you've said in that your slides.
Yeah, I mean, it fits within it again. So if you look at customers who are going to buy, if you look at the full marketing cycle and you look at how innovation is interlinked with advertising, once you've innovated a product, you need to advertise it. So they aren't completely standalone. I know we split our revenues because we want to, but the idea is that you innovate, you advertise off the back of it, and then you improve your brand performance. And there is a bit of a cyclicality through that piece. As I say, like we view the Orlando's course will be very positive for the business. We view that Test Your Idea is a big opportunity for us to grow in as well, and we'll be doing both.
Yes.
Okay. It's just an obvious thing for you to do.
Yeah.
Just as it was obvious for us to do.
Orlando thinks, I'll do a course instead.
Test print and testing online, which we're doing. So
those are sort of small opportunities.
Well, there are many opportunities that we have. We Test Your Idea, Test Your Brand, the move into digital print. These are all quite nascent compared with Test Your Ad. Test Your Ad is going like a runaway train at the moment. The other ones, we've got still plenty of potential, and we're putting a lot of effort behind them. And I think it just shows you the long-term potential of this business is enormous. But we know what the barriers are. The barriers are the understanding, it's the fame of SYSTEM1, because we're modestly famous in the UK. We're not yet at all famous in the US, which is part of what John's been doing. So fame is really important. And the reason why it's important is because these are massive decisions. We're not talking about somebody just deciding whether it'd be fun to run an ad or not. We're talking about people making $100 million decisions in some cases. So engaging with us and us being their core advisor on this is a big decision. And you only do that with people you know and know well, and whose methodology you understand and believe in. So everything we're doing is about raising the fame, increasing the understanding of the methodology, of the SYSTEM1 methodology, which is a lot of what Orlando does, and then a sales force that's in there educating and so on. People do not buy this off the shelf. You have to get in there, educate and grow with them. And the proof is in the pudding. We're doing it. But the potential, yes, is huge. I agree with you.
Yeah. So the innovation side, the market size in your slides are twice as big as ad testing. So you think, well, once you've got the system up and running for Test Your Idea, you'd think, right, okay, how can I promote that?
Test Your Idea is a harder sell, and the reason it's a harder sell is because the cycle is longer. So new product development cycles tend to be, multiple years. So people don't do a new product every year. They might do it in 3, 5, or 7 year cycles. Whereas Test Your Ad typically would be annual or biannual. So it's a longer cycle to get in and start doing stuff with them. Okay. But the potential is huge. I'm not disagreeing with you at all.
I think that's the frustration from other shareholders, that you are spending too much on advertising. Well, you Test Your Ad.
But advertising's doing that. I mean, we've got a tiny market
because
share.
But there's another market which you've.
Yeah, but we are renowned with the clients we're working with. We're renowned as the world leading experts in testing your advertising, and we still have a very small market share. So as James, I thought, eloquently explained, we have to drive that, because that funds driving the other harder to sell tools. And that's what we're doing. So I'm not disagreeing with you at all. It's the way you do it. It's a bit like, when I first joined the board, I was concerned about how we'd let the consultancy business go, because all the transformation work I've done in other companies is you use the established business and growth in the established business to fund the innovative side and the new development side of the business. It's not an either or. So I'm with you on that, and I promise you we can tell you more afterwards. But we're doing a lot of stuff in this area.
Okay.
Any more?
Yeah, just one or two more.
Okay.
So, a question for Conrad, because you represent the German shareholders for SYSTEM1.
No, I represent all shareholders.
But you have a connection to some of the German shareholders.
I sit on a board that they're also invested in, but I don't represent them at all.
Do you,
Very clear, Maynard. When I joined this board, I made it very clear that I represented all shareholders because that's my obligation as a board member.
there is you have a connection though with the German shareholders. Always I was going to ask is what the German shareholders think of the company's progress.
I haven't spoken to them. I don't know.
I have.
Okay, Rupert.
They're
What do
very
the German-
happy. They're very happy with developments. Conrad, Conrad has been let me just say on the record, Conrad has been a brilliant addition to this board. Not only is he a very smart person, but he has a considerable experience in matters legal, M&A and others that he's brought to bear. Critical part of the strategic review, huge help to Sophie, who was running the strategic review. He's been absolutely brilliant. We love him. We think he's a great board member. So that's for the record. He has never once mentioned the G word in a board meeting of German, but as it happens, I had a lunch with Matthias, one of the big German who represents the German shareholders, who, as you will see when the results come out tonight, is very supportive of all of us and all that we're doing, and is delighted that we have strategic clarity and a growth plan that is delivering. You could say, not before time.
Okay, and just to follow up one of the remote questions, which talked about director shareholdings, it does say in the annual report that the non-execs own an immaterial number of shares in the context of their financial circumstances. So given today's statement, I mean, can we see that immaterial number of shares increase?
You might well do, but it's also true that not today, but almost every other day in recent times, we've not been allowed to buy shares. Isn't that correct, Chris?
Yeah.
For reasons that we
close periods.
That would say a lot more. Actions, as I said in the general meeting, actions speak louder than words.
They do, but it's also important that you recognise, and Sophie has reminded me of this before, that there are limits on shareholding you can have to remain independent. Isn't that correct, Sophie?
Well, I mean, it's back to the Conrad question as well, and that's something that's always been very important to me, the independence of non-exec directors. So although it can be a signal, you also don't want non-execs absolutely loading up with shares. And also the other point, of course, is that we can't, as any directors, obviously just tell you in a public forum what our dealing plans are.
Yes,
but you've made the point before, and it is well documented, the point you've made before. All I can ever say is, when people ask me about System1, I say I think it's a very good company, and then it's up to them whether they buy shares or not, and it's up to me whether I buy shares or not.
Okay.
Well, I have bought shares, and I'm very pleased that the share price appears to have gone up a little bit today.
Okay, well let's wait and see then.
Yeah. Any more, Maynard?
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Listen, thank you. Without you, it would be a dry old do. So thank you for your participation. And hopefully you feel that the approach and tone of this AGM is more to your liking, and indeed the liking of all the people who've attended offline. We do want to, if you like, reset relationships in a positive and constructive and discursive manner, so that we're very happy to take any questions at any time, as you know, and we're very open to dialogue with you, and indeed any shareholder.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are grateful for your active engagement during the question and answer session. We highly value your feedback and assure you that we are devoted to addressing any remaining inquiries through the appropriate channels. There are no more, Chris, on that. Thank you to all the shareholders who made the time to be with us today, i.e. Maynard. For those who are present in the room, please feel invited to join us for some coffee and informal discussions with your board members. And to those who joined us remotely, thank you and take care. We look forward to seeing you all in 2024. Thank you very much indeed.
That's great. To the board of System1, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. Can I please ask attendees not to close this session, as we'll now automatically redirect you for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the board can really better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, but I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the board of System1 Group PLC, I would like to thank you for attending today's annual general meeting, and good morning to you all.
Thank you very much, everybody.